Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Just wanted to step in here real quick before we get started and apologize for my appearance. I have been extremely sick today. I just got finished throwing up. I'm hoping I can make it through the filming of this video without having to stop to do that again. But I just wanted to explain the puffy swollen face, the red eyes, and the possibility that at some point in this video I'll probably have snot or something on my face. But I just wanted to give everyone a heads up. This is why my face is so swollen and puffy looking and why my eyes are so bloodshot. I just can't quit throwing up. But it's going to be okay. Fortunately, I can't pass this to anybody through the camera. But we've got some really good clips today. So let's get after it.
So did you guys hear about how today Disney Cruise Line employees were just walked off the ship in cuffs?
Darmy Mehta was really pretty upset when she saw her favorite waiter being led away from the boat that was docked here in San Diego with his hands zip-tied behind his back.
For being files and caught partaking in abuse and photography. Federal exploitation sting conducted in America's cruise industry led CBP agents aboard 8 cruise ships in San Diego between April 23rd and the 27th, interviewing 28 crew members, finding that they were all involved in receiving, possessing, distributing, or viewing this exploitation and abuse material. 26 of these crew members are from the Philippines, one is from Portugal, and the other's from Indonesia. As an immediate result, all the criminals have been shipped back home with their American visas revoked. This is my puppy Zuzi.
We witnessed that, and it was really disheartening and unsettling. What happens to these employees if they are to be released? Where do they go? How do they go home?
Who cares how they get back home? When you're dealing with somebody like that, kick them off the boat and tell them to swim. Hope you make it. I don't understand the mentality of some of these people. They'll go out here and they'll start virtue signaling, trying to make it look like they're the person with the moral superiority, because they're going to stand on their high horse and point out how they would have done things differently. They would have been more compassionate. But we're talking about people who do not need compassion. We're talking about people who need to be separated from the rest of society because there's something broken in their brain. And whatever it is that's broken in their brain that causes them to behave in the way that they're behaving, that's not something you fix by giving someone compassion and a slap on the wrist, telling them to try harder next time. And all of this misplaced compassion that we keep seeing from people, all it's doing is adding fuel to the fire. It's just making the problem worse. These people are literally out here committing one of the most evil acts known to man. And they know if they get arrested, half the media is going to write puff pieces about them, trying to cast them in this glowing light. People are probably going to take to the streets and start protesting, demanding their release. And when these people start seeing that shift, when they start seeing that type of response from the public, that just helps them to justify their bad behavior. It makes it easier for them to convince themselves that there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. Society is the one in the wrong. What we need to do is make the punishment for this type of crime so severe that people are afraid to even discuss it for fear that someone may suspect them. We need to start making examples out of people. And when you catch someone doing something this severe and the only consequence that they suffer is that you put them on a boat and send them back home, if those are the only kind of consequences that these people are going to suffer, what kind of message is that sending to literally every other predator who hears it? From everything I'm reading about this story, it looks like these guys are going to get off with nothing but a warning. And that right there should tell everyone they do not care about trying to fix this problem.
So if you weren't aware, this is the step before they ban VPNs outright and continue trying to remove any form of anonymity off of the internet. Utah's online age verification amendments sets up what NordVPN calls an unresolvable compliance paradox and liability trap. Because what it states is if you live in Utah and let's say they ban a certain website where you have to use an age verification system to access that website, and you use a VPN to try and get around that because maybe another state doesn't have that age verification system, you are still under legal obligation to follow the rules because you live in Utah. And they also prohibit websites from showing people how to set up VPNs on their web pages. These websites don't have the ability to track who is and isn't using a VPN. Only major governments who are doing deep packet inspections can do that. So the result is these websites are going to have to ban all VPN IPs or require age verification for everyone globally, even if it's not part of their laws. This is what I keep talking about. A lot of these laws around the age verification systems are senseless. They do not actually and reliably do anything, and they're simply a means to go after companies to convince them to just ban VPNs, remove anonymity, and force everyone to log everything they're doing online.
I think this guy's hitting the nail right on the head. It sounds like that is exactly what they're doing. The government knows whenever it comes to specific things like freedom of speech, there is only so far that they can push. Some rules that they want in effect, they can't literally come out and tell us this is a new rule. But if they get the wording just right, if they make it very, very difficult for any of these companies to actually follow the new laws unless they do something that the government wants, even if the government's not coming right out and telling them. But if the government carefully words some of these new laws, they will give some of these companies no option but to do it in the way the government wants it done, because there's literally not a second choice. And so they can force everyone into compliance with something that they're not even openly saying they want people to comply with. But they do this all the time. And this is probably what's eventually going to destroy the internet, because they're going to have some states that enact certain laws, and then other states are not going to have those laws. But because this is an online company, some of the laws and restrictions that get passed in states that you don't even live in, you're going to have to start abiding by, because they have no way to determine what state you're residing in whenever you access that website. Or it's going to reach a point where there's so many states with so many different laws in regards to how you have to identify yourself whenever you access the internet, that basically every website is going to say, I can't follow all these rules. They're too varied. They're just going to start making blanket restrictions and making huge changes to the way that we access these websites and make it a new rule for everybody. That way they don't have to worry about all the variances in the law between this state and that state, and whether or not somebody in another state, if they're accessing a website in this state, has to follow that state's laws or this state's laws. Like with everything, they're going to overcomplicate the mess out of it until it's destroyed.
Listen up. So the White House posted this days ago with Trump as the beekeeper, which is from this movie. The plot is a former beekeeper operative, Adam Clay, goes on a violent rampage to avenge his kind landlady, Eloise Parker, who lost her life savings and charity funds to a scam. But I think there's a lot of symbolism in this photo. The beehive is a symbol that maintains a position in the Master Mason degree. There's even an order of the bees. Here's a diagram of the lodge room with the hive in the middle, or the altar. Now what's crazy is when I seen this photo, at the moment I was studying about the quantum dot tattoos. These little boogers right here. And they hold those records. We know that Bill Gates is all about this stuff, but these are biocompatible near-infrared fluorescent particles delivered via microneedle patches to store V records on the skin. The purpose is to create a decentralized on-patient medical record to show if you're being compliant. The pattern of dye is invisible to the naked eye, but visible under specialized near-infrared light filtered via a smartphone, and the dye can last for 5 years. Well, they only need 3.5. Now, why am I making a video with both these things? I'm going to tell you why. Because these things right here have bioluminescent enzymes like luciferase to create self-illuminating internal imaging systems. And they use this with fireflies. And when I read that, something popped in my head. Beelzebub, you know, the prince of demons, or lord of the flies. Not only that, but it starts with B, as in bees. And the thing is, this thing fits the bill for the mark of the beast. It has luciferase in it. It goes on the skin, but it's practically invisible until you have a light to go over it. They can use it for your medical records, they can use it for your banking, and all kind of other records as well. And then we have a NSA data center in Utah that's called Bumble Hive. Not only that, but they have an AI wearable called the Bee. Also, do y'all remember this viral video that was going around? Bees in the trap. And on top of that, we have the Lord of the Flies movie coming out today. All I'm saying is these people love their symbolism.
I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but that Beekeeper movie is actually a pretty fun watch if you haven't seen it and you're into action movies. It's basically Jason Statham playing Jason Statham like he does in every role. And I'm just going to say it is probably highly likely that there are more connections to this bee thing than what I'm seeing. I think this lady is probably following the trail closer than I am. Of course, I have no way of knowing if Trump has seen this movie or not, But when I see the image that he posted, having recently seen the movie myself, I think there's a much simpler explanation in regards to what he's trying to convey here. In the movie The Beekeeper, Jason Statham, his character, he is the beekeeper, and it's some secret government program that he was involved in that he's since retired from. And the idea of a beekeeper is that they basically don't have to follow any of the laws. They are attack dogs that course correct when they see major wrongs being committed in society. They're basically judge, jury, and executioner. They answer to no one, and they literally don't care how elite you are. If you've done something wrong, they're coming after you. And so I think that's probably the message that he's trying to convey, is that he's a beekeeper and he's coming after the bad guys. And again, there may be way more to this than what I'm picking up on, but when I see this, I can't help but to view it as just Trump showing us his ego. I think he posted this because he thought it made him look cool.
It's all over the internet. Teachers saying things have never been this bad.
If I tell them, go over there, get me that book, and then when you're done, wipe that desk off, they go, oh, okay. They go to the book, and then they be like, what did you say to do again?
I have 110-ish students. 2 of them are reading on grade level. 18 of them are at a kindergarten level.
20 years into teaching, and honestly, the students' abilities get lower every single year. I want to be a nurse. I would spell W-O-O-D. I would be a cool nurse. A cool nurse? And I think nurse are cool because nurse save lives. Like how they save us.
Name 3 continents.
I want to say London.
Why do you think London's a continent?
Because it's a natural place for where people go.
You are interacting with them briefly in between hits of the internet, which is their real life.
I gotta keep the kids constantly engaged. Not even just engaged, but almost overstimulated. The candy isn't even working anymore.
Hey guys, this is Daddy with a G. Get ready with me for school.
I don't think if you went back 20 years ago when I was in my 20s and told me that our future generations were going to have these issues, I don't think you could have convinced me that this was in our future. Of course, in my early 20s, I was still under the impression that the federal government was genuinely trying to help us, that the school system was genuinely trying to teach kids, that the justice system was genuinely only on the hunt for bad guys. So there would have likely been a lot of things you wouldn't have been able to convince me of at the time. But I remember whenever I was in high school and we'd be in English or something and everyone would be reading aloud together. And so everyone would have their books open on their desk and you would go person by person. The first person in the first row would take the first paragraph. The person behind them would do the second paragraph. The third person would do the third paragraph, and so on and so forth. And there were always those 2 or 3 kids in the class that when it got to them and they were supposed to be reading, you would genuinely sit there listening to them read aloud, thinking, how in the world have they made it to this grade? This person probably can't even write their own name. They're reading so bad. But the majority of the students could read, and at their grade level, if not above that. But now we have 8th grade teachers stating that they have 110 students, 2 of which are reading at the correct grade level. At this point, With things this bad, what are we sending our kids to school for? Because it doesn't sound like it's doing them any good. I think we are long overdue for a complete overhaul of our school system. And if the iPads and screens are creating such an issue, why do they force you to let your kids have a Chromebook whenever they go to school? I know that the main issue that this video is trying to draw everyone's attention to is the problem with these screens. And I completely agree with the idea that that video is trying to convey. But let's be honest here, the public school system has been fanning the flames on this issue for over a decade now. They are one of the major contributing factors that have led to this being such a major problem. But as bad as the public school system has gotten in the past couple of years, I don't think we're that far away from the majority of parents making the decision to just not comply with this whole public school idea.
You guys watch this video and tell me if this guy looks like he's reading off a teleprompter.
We're not just a story. We're not just headlines. We're people. People with families, with lives, with people waiting for us at home. There's a lot of uncertainty. And that's the hardest part.
Okay, I don't know about you. Correct me if I am wrong, but have you seen any other videos from any other people that are on that boat? Anybody from the airport that came in contact with that person that supposedly died in the airport? No video footage of anybody but this guy that looks like he's reading maybe off something. I don't know, maybe he wrote it out and wanted to remember it because he knew it would be long. I don't know. But when you're emotional like that and you're stuck in a, your room, you wouldn't think you'd have to read notes, but it really looked like he was reading notes. Tell me in the comments if something smells weird about this new pandemic on a cruise ship, and just some people were able to escape into the airport, and then they went traveling, and now we don't know if it's contagious or not, and if people are spreading it. Sounds familiar.
Sounds eerily familiar. But I'm seeing a lot of people starting to reach this conclusion. This guy, and there's one other that I haven't seen any of his videos. I just haven't come across them yet. But there's apparently this guy and one other, and they're the only ones posting any content who are actually on the boat. And from what I've read on the other guy, he is actually a social media guy. He's posting regularly anyway, and he's like a travel influencer. So the content that he's posting, everyone's saying is basically business as usual. And he's acting like everybody on the boat is fine, everything's going good, everybody's relaxing and having a nice, enjoyable vacation. But then this other guy, his videos, he's acting like everybody's on lockdown, quarantining themselves in their room, trying to stay separated from everyone else so they don't risk getting infected. And that dude is 100% reading off of a teleprompter. It doesn't even look like he's using a teleprompter. It looks like he's using poster board, because whatever he's reading, the text is pretty large. You can see his eyes moving as he's reading the text. And you want to talk about bad acting when the guy says at the end, there's a lot of uncertainty, and that's the hardest part. Hold on. The last line that the guy delivered, I feel like is what gave it away. That's what exposed his inability to act. I'm going to try to recreate it. The guy basically looked like this. There's a lot of uncertainty, and that's the hardest part.
I've been saying for years that the Call of Duty games are basically a US government psyop. And every time I do, there's a bunch of dudes in my comments like, it's not that deep, bro. Just let people have fun, bro. But now we have leaked emails between the creators of Call of Duty and one Jeffrey Epstein. And in these emails, the president of Activision says, I am all for indoctrinating kids, before Epstein goes on to tell him that he should start filling his games with microtransactions, which they did that very same year. And people are now saying, oh my goodness, all of the conspiracies are coming true. But this wasn't hidden. I've been trying to tell you guys this. The US State Department and intelligence agencies have been heavily involved with the creation of these games from the beginning. And that's because they are a very powerful tool for indoctrinating children, as their own president said himself. A lot of people, and especially kids, don't ever really take the time to deeply study geopolitics. So a lot of their ideas about the world are absorbed passively through the entertainment media. In these games, the basic message is that America good and all of America's enemies bad. You can bury your head in the sand and ignore that if you want, but that just makes you easier to control. It makes you more of a sheep. Most of these games aren't even good anyways. Why don't you play something that's actually fun, like The Witcher 3? I'm an RPG guy. I've never been a fan of these first-person shooters. Like the lowest form of entertainment possible.
I think it only makes sense that the government is involved in the production of these games. If you really stop and think about it, this is probably an important part of their child to soldier pipeline. When you spend several hours a day for the majority of your childhood running around trying to take out bad guys with a controller in your hand, it makes it very easy to visualize yourself as an adult in that environment. You've literally lived it. And I would imagine that most people who sign up for the military after playing games like that probably have a unjustifiably high level of confidence when it comes to their ability as a soldier. They probably think they're going to be super soldier level right out of the gate. They probably think that they're going to be top of the class because they're really good at Call of Duty. And I don't really think I would call it propaganda that a video game made in the United States where you play as a U.S. military personnel and fight against bad guys, I wouldn't call it propaganda that the idea pushed behind the game is America good, America's enemies bad. How else would you spin it? That's kind of the way it would have to be. But considering how these old Call of Duty clips keep going viral because they're literally explaining what's happening in reality now, even though they were filmed or put together 10 or 15 years ago, seeing this literal confirmation that the federal government is involved in the production of those games makes that stuff make a lot more sense. Come on, buddy. Isn't this thing a lot slower than you would have expected? You could play fetch. With itself. Looked like it was peeing there at the end of the video. They should have put a little clip at the end of some B-roll where it was showing snow on the ground with hydraulic fluid sprayed on it. I tell you what though, watching this thing perform in real time makes me a lot less nervous about what is waiting for us with these robots in the future. I know eventually they'll figure out how to make these things lightning fast and they'll be able to think so quickly and process things so quickly that it's almost as if they're running on multiple minds at once. But as for now, it looks like these things are limited in the same degree that it would be limited if you were running the whole thing off of what's the current model of ChatGPT, 4.5. But what I mean is it looks at something and then it appears that it's sending that information to some website so that it can calculate what it's looking at and then send the details back to the machine. But it's having to stop and process literally everything that way, unless it's something that it's, I'm assuming, familiar with because it's in the house and it sees it on a routine basis, so it understands that it should expect to see these certain things. But considering that it looks like it's going to take on average about 10 to 12 minutes for it to read on that dry erase board that you're wanting shoes picked up, go to the location where the shoes are, take a photo of the shoes, upload that photo to the internet so that it can determine what it's looking at, And keep in mind, when it sends that photo, it may be looking in the wrong direction. That may not be the correct shoes that you were talking about. But once it determines that it does have the correct item that you're wanting put away, then it has to figure out where that place is that you're wanting it stored at. Then it has to go through all the processes of going over and slowly picking this item up, making sure it's oriented in the right way before it sets it down. Then it has to go back and get the second shoe. You're talking about something that's going to take about 10 minutes for some machine bumping and whirring around and making all kinds of winding noises and stuff behind you while you're trying to hear the TV, when you could literally pick those shoes up and put them away yourself in less than 10 seconds. I don't feel like that's adding enough quality to my life that it's worth shelling out $20,000 or whatever they're going to want for one of these robotic dogs. But I do have a lot more confidence now that I can either outrun or outsmart one of these things, at least for now.
She told the world about beings from 47,000 years in the future living among us. 2 years later, she's found unalived in her own home. These are the real stories told by the growing list of missing scientists. A 2 a.m. rabbit hole that'll keep you up all night. Ultra-terrestrials, she called them, known as P-47s, meaning present plus 47,000 years, the year they're visiting from. There were also P-52s, 52,000 years in the future. And these beings aren't exactly alien, they're us, humans from the future. Amy Eskridge, a highly educated researcher based in Huntsville, Alabama, has claimed this to be true. Shortly before, she was found deceased by self-inflicted gunshot wound at age 34 in June 2022. But what's even more disturbing than the disappearances themselves are the stories that people like David Wilcock and Amy Eskridge are sharing with the world before their untimely ends. And people like Amy weren't some amateur self-proclaimed UFO-obsessed kook. Quite the opposite. She held double majors in chemistry and biology from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. She served as chairwoman at a private organization dedicated to researching unconventional propulsion and energy systems, the Institute for Exotic Science in Huntsville, with her work primarily focused on what we can call zero-point energy. Free, unlimited energy extracted from our space field of existence that mainstream science will claim is impossible. During her work into anti-gravity propulsion, Amy had multiple discussions with Hal Puthoff, another leading researcher into UAP technology with a PhD in electrical engineering, who spoke to her about these humans from the future known as P-47s and P-52s that came to be after a worldwide apocalyptic scenario destroys the Earth and forces humanity underground, causing us to evolve over thousands of years with big, dark eyes, gray skin, large heads, and small bodies. The Greys, as they're commonly known as in UFO lore, aren't extraterrestrial, but rather ultra-terrestrial, meaning they're native to Earth. They're us, humans from the future after 50,000 years of evolving underground. Allegedly, these ultra-terrestrials have also developed time travel and have come back in time to ensure their own survival, by making sure that the catastrophic event that sends humans underground does happen, so that their timeline does happen as well, and they can come to be. A sort of Back to the Future, make sure my parents meet so I can exist scenario. Kinda out there, I know, but it is a story that has been retold by many independent sources, including David Wilcock, as well as leading zero-point energy engineer Hal Puthoff, and former Area 51 microbiologist Dan Burish, that maybe the discovery of anti-gravity propulsion, zero-point energy, enables us to leave the planet before this worldwide calamity occurs and humans no longer need to evolve underground. Meaning these P-52s, the Greys, will cease to exist, so they're hunting down every scientist who will potentially develop this technology to ensure their own survival. Amy has mentioned that the NSA lists 5 people who have independently discovered anti-gravity technology, starting with Nikola Tesla as the first, 3 other scientists, and then her own dad, Richard Eskridge, a highly accomplished propulsion engineer with a long career at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in, can you guess? Huntsville, Alabama, who's led many public studies analyzing exotic physics concepts proposed as the basis for advanced propulsion systems, UAPs. But he insists these missing scientists are all coincidental and denies any connection to the discovery of zero-point energy. Exactly what someone who's still alive would say. And now, newly resurfaced videos of Amy showing her hands getting burned by what she claims to be some sort of direct energy weapon every time she tried to type on her keyboard. That when she covered the window, the burning stopped immediately, and there was even an outline of her body left on the glass. Perhaps the Greys were trying to stop her from continuing this research. She even mentioned multiple times in her video interview that she was very aware of actors in play threatening to her if she continued talking about this, that she would go to bars with people spiking her drinks and asking about what she does for work as soon as she started feeling woozy. She's even quoted as saying, "If you stick your neck out in public, at least someone notices if your head gets chopped off. If you stick your neck out in private, they will bury you. They will burn down your house while you're sleeping in your bed and it won't even make the news." Which is the main reason she went public with all this. She has also explicitly sent texts before her death saying that if there are any reports that I did this to myself, I most definitely did not. 2 years later, she was found in her own home by alleged self-inflicted gunshot wound. You be the judge. And now more recently, leaked signal chats reveal Amy telling a friend that this cataclysm the Greys are rooting for will happen in 7 years. Back in 2021, marking the date of this worldwide disaster sometime around October 2028. So at least we've still got a little over a year, right? The FBI, the Pentagon, and White House Congress have opened an official investigation into all of this, looking for possible connections between the missing scientists, calling this a national security issue, claiming unlikely to be a coincidence, which is pretty surprising coming from the government. And it's hard to deny, we're talking multiple scientists directly connected to NASA and the country's most classified UAP research program, all passing away or going missing under similar circumstances under a very short period of time. And the list keeps on climbing. It started at 10, then 11, 12, then 15. Last I heard, I think 18, and it's probably going to keep rising. With the head of the investigation saying these cases have all the signs of foreign interference. Because now, 9 different scientists in China have also gone missing, with ties to deep space technology, unmanned drone systems, advanced propulsion, and supersonic weapons. The causes of death are recorded as sickness, accidents, and unexplained incidents, with Taiwan's media calling it extremely uncommon. Coincidence, or are the Greys really doing everything they can to stop us from developing this technology, forcing humanity underground for thousands of years after a global cataclysm, ensuring their own survival?
I know that video is a little bit long, but there are a couple of reasons I wanted to put that in there. For one, I wanted to talk about the theory that he's proposing, but also I really like how detailed his breakdown is of the situation in general, but also the details around Amy Eskridge. I think that's absolutely nuts that her own father is claiming that all of these mysterious disappearances and deaths are all coincidence. I highly doubt that is what that man genuinely believes, but I can certainly understand his reservations and his hesitancy to get involved with talking about this conspiracy. If there is anything to it, he would literally be putting himself in harm's way. But I wanted to talk about this theory specifically because from everything that I'm looking into, it seems like this is the theory that most people are leaning toward. I don't buy for a second that these are us from the future, the P-47s or the P-52s. I don't believe that any of these creatures are us from another timeline. I think they're lying about this whole time travel thing. That's just part of their narrative. I do find it funny that they want us to believe in time travel and that we have to convince ourselves of something that is not true, we know is not true. We have to convince ourselves that it's possible, that they figured it out in the future, because without convincing ourselves of that, there's no way that you can buy into the narrative they want us to believe in regards to where these things came from. How is anybody buying this? And then just think about the logic of what they're claiming. All of history went a certain way, a cataclysm takes place, and all of humanity that survives it has to go underground to try to survive for thousands of years. And then the humans from the future, roughly 50,000 years into the future, decide they're going to send a bunch of them back to just before the cataclysm so that they can make sure history repeats itself. If time travel was a thing, if it did exist, if we did figure it out, the only way that you could ensure that things played out exactly how you expected them to play out is for you to not go into the past and mess with anything. The moment you even travel into the past, you would be changing something, because now there's an entity that exists in a location where it previously did not exist in history. But there would be no way for you to go back and know for sure that you're manipulating things in the correct way to get them to line up so that everything plays out exactly 50,000 years in the future how you're wanting it to play out. The idea, the reasoning, the logic that they're giving us as to why these things are even here makes zero sense. But of course, that is what you should expect when someone is lying to you. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. God willing, I'll be back tomorrow with another one. I hope you come back to join me. I didn't just misspeak there. I do intend to post on Saturday if I can pull it off. But don't forget to click like. Don't forget to leave a comment to increase the odds of my future uploads showing up in your YouTube feed. But guys and gals, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you all in the next one.